And those who don't want to comply, they throw them in the penitentiary.
Mm-hmm.
May I interject? May I
Yes.
interject? Very interesting conversation, and I'm kind of looking at the comments in the chat, and for a point of clarity, there were several comments that had to do with the fact that you, while you talk about the matriarchy and bringing the matriarchy back in its rightful place, that you also say that Larry Hoover has got to be in charge. So
It don't work like that.
I'm just giving. No, so I'm bringing that to your attention.
Right.
So
a lot of people ask that question. It's a good question, but the three kings' job is to report on the land, what's going on with the water, the land, and the air. What's going on with the people, and then from there, they clear the way for the matriarchy to be seen in the public in order to reestablish the jurisdiction de jure.
And so,
so they working hand in hand.
I take it when Brother Rod is saying Larry Hoover, you've got to look at the metaphysicality of what he's saying. He's not just talking about Larry himself. He's talking about the principle of the non-jurisdictional incarceration of both Larry, the non-jurisdictional suppression of the Moabites or the circle of mothers, the non-jurisdictional actions on political prisoners in general, and the restoration of their obligation as belligerent fofers to release the estate and stop perpetrating the fraud on humanity as a nation or government, all of which they are not and never have been. Now, according to the rule of international law, it's actually their obligation to assist what's going on right now. And they're even breaching that. However, I'm glad that Brother Rod has stepped up as he has, and because basically what he's doing is what them Grand Sheiks were assigned to do by Noble Drew Ali in Act 1 of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. They were supposed to step up. But of course, we don't have to go through that. We already know the history on that BS.
But it's one thing that Noble Drew Ali said. He said he was going to leave them in power long enough for us to learn how to run a government.
Yes.
So any of the Grand Sheiks that didn't do the work mean that it wasn't their job at that time. Because they couldn't have been competent to this level and refused to do the work because it's the only way to give the collective relief.
Yes.
So respecting the fact that, like I tell people all the time, I'm not a Moor, but I'm a student of Moor science. And my understanding of Noble Drew Ali's intent is for them people to stay in power long enough for us to run the government. We can run it now. We can run it now. We don't need nobody help. We don't need no de facto corporation that was set up as an interim government. We don't need them no more. They can go now.
And we need more alpha males to step up to protect the mothers, to make them feel comfortable to take their positions and might not be distracted by all this BS that has become part of the culture here.
When you were saying earlier, the metaphysics involved in Free Larry Hoover, I keep telling everybody it's not only Free Larry Hoover. Free Larry Hoover is the condensation down to one single term that we can all get on the same page with. What comes with Free Larry Hoover means free Chief Malik Angel Bey. It means free Mumia Abu Jamal, right? It means bring Assata Shakur back home. Release all of our political prisoners, right? We've made agreements across the chiefs. The chiefs all understand, but now we on the Juneteenth campaign to inform the grassroots that this corporate system is over. And what you're looking at on TV is a stage play played out as a tool of distraction. So you don't know that it's time for you to walk off the job, have it hard for about a month or two, and come all the way up. Now, don't nobody want to do that. But it's going to get hard before it get easier. If you look at the senates across the country and the Congresses, they got senators and congressmen walking off the job because this shit is over.
Yes.
I just saw that. I just heard a news, something on the news, and I don't look at a lot of news.
They ain't getting paid.
They're not running for re-election, many in droves and so forth.
They ain't gonna get paid.
Now, there was a comment in there, in the comment that said that Free Larry Hoover is a psyops. Now, you just said, I like what you said. You said that is a rallying cry for all the political prisoners.
That's what it is.
You did not name. So,
but
for those of you,
not just political prisoners, it also means raise and restore the matriarchs.
Okay, so it's a rallying cry that we can all get around. And then I saw comments regarding when you mentioned the bikers. There was comments like, did he mean like as if, you know, what we see as bikers.
Everybody on the land have to be accounted for with the chiefs. There's no clans on the land, whether they bikers, KKK, whether they Morris Science Temple, whether they growth and development, doesn't matter. They all have to have somebody that's a representative in the collective of the clans. If you can't clean this shit up, taking sides. That's why it's a round table, not a square table. And the one whose job it is the one who knows how to perform that function. And they're going to be ascribed titles according to their function. Even the Red Lodge, the Peace Stones, called Larry Hoover Chief Hoover or the chairman. That means that when it comes time for us to restore the land, that's the chief that Big Mama appointed to speak up for the collective. To not take sides with nobody BS, right? Get in the middle of the drama and say, hold up, it's not going down like that. This is what's really going on the land. I'm reading it like I read a book because I know our culture well enough to know that it's in transitional phase. The FEMA document maps out the strategy for the transition of government, right? Don't argue with me, argue with the document. So the document gave us a clear-cut description. We seen the movement. Larry Hoover lawyer went to see him last month. He couldn't see him because he wasn't there. They in continuity of government, waiting on the people to get on the same page so we can stop following the carrot on the stick and we can go get to the gold mine.
Exactly. They can't give reparations. Number one, it ain't theirs to give. And number two, our people are the people of the land, and they've been refugees in their own land. They need to recognize that and step up.
So when we get back to restoring the land, it's more important than me fighting with the dirty Moors and still telling them that I listen to Taj. Right? Now we know from history that there's some people on the land that look like us, that murder us when we reach positions of prominence. They look just like us, but they ain't us. They've shown their hand. These are people that came over calling themselves conquistadors. They tutor royal family members, hide out in Switzerland, live in upstate New York and New Jersey in gated communities. All that shit been busted up. But everybody watching the dog and pony show, the holographic images and the actors playing Joe Biden. Right? This shit is over with.
You know what I think though, from what I'm looking at, again, I'm looking at comments and I'm not going to get all into all of the negativity because there is quite a bit of negativity, but then there's, there are those on here that really came to hear from both of you and to glean from and learn from what you had to say. But I think what it is that, you speak with such a surety on things that folks are finding incredulous. So therefore they think, and I'm just kind of channeling thoughts, they think that you're crazy. For instance, for you to say, I did this, I shut down, Buckingham Palace, I shut down. No, I'm just saying that these kinds of things, and you're saying these things, and so they're because anyone could have done it, is what I heard you all say.
Yep.
Everybody didn't know to do it, and
Yep.
even if they did know that it needed to be done, would not have had the courage or the balls or whatever else, the BJJ, to go and do it. So
Exactly.
we should be happy that someone in the person of Rod Hayes has taken the initiative to do what needs to be. I'm reminded, Grand Sheik, of what makes sense to me is that what Grand Sheik's Daria Bay did, was it in 2013? Or when there was another, the paperwork expired, and she had to do some certain things that no one else had done at that point.
Yeah, that was with the Moorish Science Temple of America, where they had let the corporate papers expired.
Right. So nobody else stepped up to the plate to make sure, because it's like 100-year thing, if I'm not mistaken. She did it, and then she got, and still gets to this day, flack about her calling herself, who she is, Prime Minister.
People didn't understand a government action, even though from the corporate perspective, all that stuff is dead now and not necessary. The point of it is the principle of her recognition was to try to set a platform correct so that she could start cleaning up the misrepresentations. However, the reality of it is, as the people become more and more conscious, the people need to recognize that the corporate platform and all bottomry instruments related to it, which Brother Rod is making reference to, are dead and unnecessary. What is necessary is for the people to now come back to their tribal clans and go back to the principles, like Dwali said, go back to the state of mind of your ancient mothers and fathers, because our concepts are all wrong. He says, but at the same time, some things had to be presented to the people in the nature of what they were used to, but he also told them the half has not been told, so that you could start practicing or exercising your critical mind, and you will discover other things that you needed. That's why you never stand still. That's why you don't take a position. You don't take sides. You stick with principles, and in good time, the principles will show you everything you need to know.
That's the only way to conquer the dogma. You got to use the morals to conquer the dogma.
And everything you're saying, it makes sense to a lot. But then I still see comments like, well, no mention, he's not saying anything about the Moors. I think what I'm hearing you say, in both of either of you, correct me if I'm wrong, those things that we were being pounded upon over the last 40 years or so, Grand Sheik, that you've been talking about, and different, you've said it to me, you just said it, the things that we've been doing would also mean things we might even be calling ourselves. There will be a point where that is not necessary in order for us to come into our rightful place in the land.
It's a tool. People need to understand that organizations are tools. They're not set up to live forever. They're set up to do a job. But the job is usually what you call an abstract, i.e., just like customs and traditions are what you call abstract hereditaments. A physical thing like land, the aggregate land as an example, trinkets, statues, different things that were made by our forefathers. Those are what you call corporal inheritance. But the abstract is something that has to be done, or the building in the character of the mind. And so you must recognize that when that is recognized, that those physicalities are unnecessary. And this is what people don't understand about organization. They think that the organization is the thing. The organization is the tool. That's all. And when the job is done, the tool is put away.
Yep.
Well, did not the prophet say, I came to you Moors
because
first?
You need me the most.
Need the most, which said to me that, like you said, he says, I'm a universal prophet. So they
keep looking at the Moorish movement, not so much the Moorish movement, But they so many people have wrongfully and improperly looked at the Moorish Science Temple of America as the nation. It is not. It's an outreach venue put in place for communication and to deal with the corporate side of our activities that we're forced into, not to be continued. If you get the point, when it has done its job, it passes off. The job is done, which is why we're even having this conversation. We need to know when we know, it's like this. As an example, you've been busy and I've been busy, right, Doc? And we went and measured these windows, different things that we do, right? And we had these windows sitting in here for what, 2 months or so, whatever. And then we went through all the trouble to get them in the first place, right? And then I put the windows in, right? I had other stuff to do. And I took the tools and then I put them away, right? We don't need the tools no more, right?
Right.
Then I use the tools and I put the air conditioner back up, right? But then I don't need the tools. People need to know that institutions are the same way. People have the confusion that institutions are supposed to live forever. They're not. They're tools. When they have done their job, they are to be dissolved. They're not to be, you don't maintain them. You maintain the principle. This is why principles are set, or what you call maxims that are based. Maxims are usually principles that are based in what you call stare decisis relative to civil law, etc., but are based in nature law principles that don't change or pass away. That's why you take the position of principles in order to vet all that you do, left or right. You don't take a position, you don't take sides, you take principle. And you stand on that principle because we, basically in the physical form, are fickle.
Together, they tried to cut them off from source. That created a problem with the Queen of Heaven and Earth, and here we are at the cleanup at the close of the age, because we had to wait to the close of the age for all things to be balanced once again. Because before the higher ancestors intervene, they have to allow the developing and evolving souls and spirits to try to resolve the matter. In other words, let the kids solve the problem up the ladder from the toddler to the adult child. And they do have adult children. Most motherfuckers is an adult child. You are a 6-year-old trapped in a 40-year-old body, but you don't have any concept of understanding that. How do you understand being a 6-year-old trapped in an adult body? Every fucking thing you learned in your school system was a 12-step brainwash click program. It was designed to slow your thinking down, which allows the ego to run rampant. Then they put you in conditions to bump left and right until the ego becomes haughty. It becomes arrogant to the point it becomes entitled. The ego in the soul beings that becomes entitled, they normally have heart issues. Not just entitled that cause a heart issue. It's that artificial construct leaning on your heart chakras, keeping it closed. You can't open your heart chakra while you are caught in the artificial ego matrix. It won't open. It's not possible. Because one, the male can't open it on his own. Two, no female worth her weight in shit will turn that motherfucker on because of what it will make. A monster. It will make a tyrant. Because the ego can't handle the energy of the mitochondrial awakening. That's where we at. Ascension is mitochondrial awakening. I'm going to say that again. I don't think y'all really get that. Ascension is mitochondrial awakening. Only women can turn it on in the men, but the men have to do their self-work before a woman gonna even touch them. Some women can do it accidentally. They normally victims of domestic violence because that man 9-vote ass can't handle that 250,000 vote. A woman that she just ran through his ass. So I told y'all, when they start turning off this ego, motherfuckers gonna be walking down the street and drop dead. Boop, he done. You know, and they say, well, what's the twitching? That's called a post-mortem nerve response. It comes from the abrupt exiting of the ego matrix from the physical form. So the body is trying to find the ego. It can't find it. The nervous system is searching